I do. It's just lazy. The speaker.
Yeah.
Motion is passed by the members then present to extend to a later specified cutoff time, and same shall be announced at the opening of each meeting. In addition, the board does not intend to begin a new hearing after 10 p.m. or begin testimony of a new witness after 10:30 p.m. Any hearing conducted by the board is a quasi-judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to issues that are relevant to what the board may legally consider in reaching a decision. The quorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. No call.
Mr. DeMarco,
Present.
Ms. Gardner, here, Ms. Geller, Mr. Graham,
Here.
Mr. Martin,
Here.
Mr. Stafford,
Here.
Mr. Simoff,
Here.
Mr. Walden,
Here.
and Mr. Zazarino.
Here.
You have your cards.
So you got it.
Yeah. Sorry. Let's survive these pictures.
There we go. Any minutes or go on progress?
October.
Okay, any comments? Yeah.
You need.
Any votes?
We had to do with, the meeting minutes, August 15th, which is, a sentence that kind of like.
Oh, okay.
I used the same thing in the Walter, something that I needed to remove.
All right. And no November, December yet, and so motion. Please, to approve. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And it, of course, it's relevant to the eligible members. Okay, communication letter, from the Freshwater Wetlands Protection Act. General permit. I guess that's block 129, right? Not block 129. On the agenda.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
must be.
Must be.
My
It's the
mistake.
quitting time, okay. Block 22. Any comments, any? No. Communication dated February 7th from the DEP land use authorization for 90 Lloyd Road. Any concerns there? No, okay. If anyone's here to ask a question or discuss anything that's not related to tonight's agenda, this is the first with two chances we'll have to communicate that concern to us. None, okay. So, new business, one item is reviewing and approving the bills. Any comment? Okay, a motion,
We paid bill for $906.25.
I'll second.
roll call.
Mr. DeMarco,
Yeah.
Ms. Gardner,
Yes.
Ms. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Graham,
Yes.
Mr. Morrison,
Yes.
Mr. Sasso,
Yes.
Mr. Spindler,
Yes.
Mr. Walden,
Yeah.
and Mr. Zazarino.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Steve,
Yes.
I think this would be, no, before we move on, this would be the time we could discuss the cross acceptance requirement that we have. We've been asked by the mayor to provide a representative to, supplement Denise, who's been named to that, as well as, I think John's been named to it, but we need to provide one of us is a member of cross acceptance. And John also said, oh, he can go to the next meeting, which is the meeting which is on the 20th.
He said today that he was gonna be present there.
Yeah, but we still, and that's great, but we still need to designate somebody on the board
For subcommittee, there's to do that.
to participate in that
Yeah.
committee.
It could be, any
I
member,
believe there's no restriction based on class
no,
or lack thereof.
it's correct. I was hoping for a straight one, man. You couldn't punch them. Correct.
It's, I did send this out before to the board. It's, one in-person meeting, which I think is the meeting on the 20th, but it may not be. And then the rest, it's just Zoom meetings. Cross acceptance of the state, the county's master plan, our master plan. Any volunteers? The meeting is the 20th, I think at 7 p.m. and
No, I think it's earlier.
earlier.
Yeah, it's either 6 or 6:30.
Okay, it's 8:30. You already recognized them.
Well, one of the things that they request is that if someone with strong knowledge of borough zoning code and, ordinances and plan.
Right, because it has to reconcile that.
Mhm. And the master plan.
I'll send up with volunteer.
I'll step that.
Yep.
Everybody else is steps to
Step down.
All right, thank you, Hal. Okay, so, the next topic is the capital project review for the, Somerset Hills High School, lighting, and that's an application, so. Did you want to say?
It's a courtesy review, as we've done before, 31A capital projects and also specific to school districts, that we are preempted by the state DOE, Department of Education for citing of school facilities like, but we do have the opportunity to have a courtesy review. And our role is, as the Clifton and Vernon case say, quote, strictly recommended toward, end quote. So we can make recommendations, we can open it up to the public, but it's not a formal hearing on an application for development and,
And
nothing
there's no
binding.
obligation on their part to take a recommendation, it's just recommended.
Good faith,
Yep.
sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, we'll see what happens. But we have counsel, for the school district here, and, she can introduce herself and explain it at least as well as I can. That's it.
No, I think Mr. Warner did a good job. My name's Tara San Angelo. I'm from the firm of Gebhardt and Kiefer, and I'm here on behalf of the school district for this capital review hearing. And it is just that it is under the municipal land use law, anytime the municipality expends public funds for public purposes on structures, buildings, et cetera, the planning board is able to do a courtesy review. In addition, when the school board submits to the Department of Education with their construction plans and everything for their approval, the Department of Education does require to have the letter from the board. So the Department of Education does look at any recommendations you provide and that you have done the review. So we do have a requirement to submit that with our plans to the Department of Education.
And as the board knows, we go a little bit beyond the letter, we are a little more formal, we do a memorializing resolution. Which no doubt will be ready for the next meeting. But not to get ahead of it, we have the courtesy review.
So with that, the last time I was here actually for the school board was back in 2015 when they expanded their media center and parking lot. Some of the faces are familiar. I hope that mine is still familiar after almost 10 years. But this time we are here for a project to put up 4 light poles, obviously with lighting on top, on the football field, which is Olcott Field. Some people refer to it as the upper field, but the football field. And like I said, they're looking to install four light poles. The purpose of this project for the school board is really twofold. The first is to enhance the quality of the games for the players and the spectators. Currently, the lights that are utilized on the field are mobile diesel powered lights. They don't go up high enough. They don't provide a lot of enough illumination. So this would provide a better spectator opportunity, also a better experience for the athletes. Additionally, it is about quality. The kids that suffer the most for games getting called off when it gets too dark and if they can't use the mobile lights, it's typically your girls' JV sports. Those are the kids that can't finish their games. So having the lights on the field would enable those athletes to essentially complete their games each season. And tonight I have 3 witnesses with me. I have the superintendent here that'll explain to you how the fields are used, what safeguards the school board has put in place to avoid any excessive nuisance to the neighbors, as well as restrictions they have on how many night games, when the lights get turned off, how many night games they'll have that go past 8 p.m., et cetera. We also have our architect here to obviously explain to you the nitty gritty of the project, where the light poles are going, et cetera. And then we also have our lighting expert from Musco Lighting to explain to you what type of product they're using, how it reduces nuisance. I think if the school board was here 20 years ago looking to put up the lights, you would have had a lot more issues with light spillage and nuisance. But right now the technology has vastly improved since then, and our lighting expert from Musco Lighting will go over that with you. So to get started, I was going to have your superintendent come up and tell you about the project and everything we've done so far. Prior to even getting here, the school board has done studies, held community outreach meetings. Where would be the best place? Oh.
Right here.
Yeah, okay. Mark. And notwithstanding the fact that it is not a formal public hearing on an application for development, people will accommodate me. I'll swear in witnesses nonetheless. So if you'll raise your right hand, you swear to God or affirm testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yes.
Thank you. And also, notice is not with the formal MLUL notice for an application for development or for certain types of them. It's not required for diversity review either. But of course, open public meeting.
And if you just want to state your name and spell it for the record.
Sure, my name is Brian Rolchel, Brian, last name Brotschul. I'm the superintendent of schools here in Somerset Hills. Thank you for having me.
We do have a PowerPoint presentation that is going to guide most of his testimony, so I don't have to really interrupt him. And
We can call the whole thing A1 for reference
That's perfect.
purposes, identification purposes, and however many pages it is. If we're able, we can maybe just keep track of the pages as we reference it.
So if you want to start off, what was our first slide? Oh, yes, just going over, if you would go over the overview of the work you've done so far.
Sure. So the Somerset Hills Board of Education has been engaged in this work regarding sports lighting feasibility study. We began our work in formality in June of 23, and we finalized it, last July. The board recently acted in September, to approve an application to the Bernardsville Planning Board, regarding, our work. The goal here was to improve the quality of the lights on our facility and to increase access as far as how many kids have the ability to utilize our facilities. So did a historical review. We installed turf and considered the installation of lights in the time period of 2008 to 2014. In 2022, the board adopted a strategic plan that had a deep and broad engagement with the community. Inside of that strategic plan was a goal to assess the feasibility of installing LED lights on Olcott Field at Bernards High School. We began that feasibility study work, as I said, in June of 23, and it followed into the first half of 2024. We had community forums, we engaged the community in a survey. We had focus groups that were set up on 5 different occasions, and we even took some field trips up to other facilities to see the new installation, the new trends in lighting installations, in specifically in athletic facilities, and we targeted facilities specifically that had what we call neighborhood high schools. So high schools that were constructed inside of residential areas. So we're very targeted in our work. We were able to publish a full feasibility study that the board conducted, and there's a QR code on the presentation as well as a link if you would like to peruse that. So our work, as I shared, had focus groups, had community forums. There was a broad survey that comprised not only district parents, but district students and community members inside of the Somerset Hills area, or Somerset Hills School District. We had a lot of feedback. People were able to identify whether they were parents of school-age children, not parents of school-age children, students, staff members, etc. So we feel like we were able to have a robust engagement with the community. In its entirety. We took a deep dive with various Board of Education committees, specifically our Facilities and Operations Committee, our Finance Committee, and our Policy Committee. And specifically, I'd like to talk about the work that the Policy Committee did. First and foremost, that committee and the board feels very strongly around our responsibility to be great neighbors, in concert with our responsibility for providing equity and access to our facilities for student athletes of all teams. So whether you are on the football team, JV field hockey, JV lacrosse, varsity lacrosse, whatever your team is that utilized our facilities, you can utilize them for the duration of your games. Because the reality is that many of our games were shortened due to lack of sunlight. The board defined and codified their commitment to the community and their commitment to balancing the needs of the children and their ability to access our facilities inside of their policy. Inside of the policy, it states that the school and the district is able to utilize those lights up until 8 o'clock every night. And there's also 20 stretch nights throughout the course of the year that will accommodate additional activities up until 10 p.m. So that was very important for the board. And it was an important policy amendment that the entirety of the board went ahead and approved in September of 24. We made a public presentation to the board and to the community last September, and the board did approve the submission of our application to the planning board based upon the level of community engagement and the level of our planning that had transpired during the past year or so. Thank you.
Actually, since we have this part of the presentation up next, we have an expert from Musco Lighting to just talk about the technology and
So we'll have
the
questions
equipment.
after
I
all.
was gonna say the deference to the chair, whether we have questions for this or wait till all we are done. It might be smooth.
Questions after.
Certainly within the discretion and prudent, in my opinion. So, you'll raise your right hand, you swear to God or affirm testimony about the case of truth, all truth and nothing but the truth. And, this witness will be testifying in expert capacity.
Yes, so that, so we just state your name and spell it.
Yes, my name is Robert Zoller, Zoelleller.
And for the board, can you just go over your qualifications?
Sure. I'm a technical consultant for Musco Sports Lighting. I've been involved in 30 years in dealing with lighting projects, sports lighting projects. I've been involved in over 3,000 sports lighting projects. I regularly provide information to over 100 engineering firms, architectural firms throughout the northeastern United States. I've been qualified as a lighting expert in 7 states, including Superior Court in the state of New Hampshire.
Does the
Is it
board,
the polo? I'll screen it on the phone.
Yes,
Thanks. We accept.
You have licenses?
thank you.
Are you licensed?
They don't have licenses for lighting. So we're not licensed.
If I may, as I think the board knows, it's a particular area of quote unquote expertise beyond the ken of the average board member. Then one can be deemed an expert, notwithstanding the fact that one may not have a professional licensure. Anecdotally, I was involved as a board attorney in a project involving the new Red Bulls facility, for lighting, if I recall correctly, no conflict. Happened to have a lighting expert there. It was you. Okay, I didn't recognize. There you go. I can attest to the fact that this gentleman's been accepted as an expert in his field, at least in one land use board in the last few years, but apparently they're required. So certainly within the discretion of the chair to accept him as an expert. Which I did.
okay, so once again, like, with the last time, I will just leave you to your presentation.
Great, thank you very much. And thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for the opportunity to be here today. Just to give you a little background, who is Musco Lighting? Musco Lighting will be celebrating 50 years of providing sports lighting solutions for various groups next year. So since 1976, we've been providing sports lighting solutions. We have local offices in New Jersey. The product is manufactured in plants located in Iowa. It is a USA made product. We have over 300 LED lighting projects currently in New Jersey. And actually, it's not 35 high schools, we're up to 40 high schools in the state of New Jersey. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, we were the lighting company that put in the lights at the polo grounds. To understand the technology we propose, and it is the same technology as what is installed at the polo grounds. To understand the technology, we do just a quick little overview. If you go back to the 1970s, basically sports lighting was simply a floodlight. The idea was to get as much light as you can into the area that you're trying to light, and the light went everywhere. There was no control. It was just sending light out, lighting the area. In 1989, we started to look at how we could improve not only the amount of lighting on the field, but also to improve or lessen the impact to adjoining residences, adjoining neighbors. So the first step was we installed a faceted louver at the bottom of the reflector. So if you look at the second reflector there versus the first, you see that very bright area of glare below the lamp that's very shiny now has been captured. And just by doing that, we got 65% more light on the field. We reduced light spillage by 25%. As we continued, we started to add external louvers because we still had vision of the light source, the lamp, and that was really the main source of glare. That's the part when you see a bright source, say for instance, a car's coming towards you and they have the high beams on. Basically, you're looking right at those LED diodes and that light, and it's very, very blinding. So we began adding external visors. So we had the level 8, which was adding a couple of visors, and it didn't add any additional wind loading to the fixtures. We then went to 1989 total light control, which was a very large visor. Problem with that is it cut off light. So we had to add 25% more lighting fixtures to put the right amount of light onto the field. In 2005, we came out with the light structure green technology. As you can see, that's the largest visor we had. We were able to control the light coming out of the bottom of the reflector and get more light on the field. And then finally, here's where we are today with the LED lighting fixture. It's called TLC for Total Light Control LED lighting fixture. It is the only lighting fixture out on the market today that is truly a full cutoff fixture. By that I mean, there's no light emitted above the horizontal of the lighting fixture itself. Okay. Now, in order to kind of illustrate this, what we did was we set up a series of lighting poles. And at 100 feet in front of the lighting poles, we established a measure of light that we had to achieve. So going from left to right, if we look at the 1977 pole,
are those poles?
those poles are 50 feet tall. And if you look at the picture to the left, those were the 1977 floodlights. It took 5 1,500 watt lights in order to achieve the lighting level at 100 feet in front of that pole. With the improvement, as I said, we got 65% more light onto the field when we added that faceted insert at the bottom. Now we went to 4. We were able to take out a 1,500 watt fixture, and you can see there's a reduction in glare. When we got to the level 8, there's a slightly more reduction in glare. There's no more gain of efficiency. When we get to the total light control, now you can see a reduction in glare. You're still seeing a lot of light out of the bottom of the fixtures. The light structure green was a big chunk of change. It really reduced it by half the number of fixtures to 2. And then if you look at that picture to the right of it, there's actually 2 fixtures that are on that pole. And you basically can't see them because the key to the lighting fixture is we're able to cover the ability to see the lighting source within the lighting fixture, cutting away the glare. Now, the one on the right, and I put that in there, the purpose of that is that's an LED lighting fixture by another sports lighting manufacturer. Just so that we understand that just to say you have an LED sports lighting fixture doesn't mean that you're controlling the light. That's another LED sports lighting fixture there. It really looks just like the 1977 fixture because it's not controlling the light output coming out of the fixture. Okay.
How far away is the camera from those poles?
About 125 feet. Okay. So just to see that and illustrate that, on the left is the Musco TLC LED fixture. You can see there's no glare. You're looking right at the fixture from home plate on a baseball field. And then you have another field, the same type of field with that LED fixture that was in the right picture. That's not controlled and it's old glare. Okay. And this is the actual fixture itself. As I mentioned, it has a very large visor that extends in front of the fixture. Purpose of that visor is to cut off your ability to see the light source inside the fixture. And you can just see in the right picture of the fixture, just a small little sliver of light there to show those LEDs are tucked up inside, and the fixture is designed to direct that light downward onto the field to the area that we're trying to illuminate. Now, with sports lighting, and especially with a multi-use high school field, we are dealing with not only ground sports, but we're dealing with aerial sports as well. You have punch, you have high kicks with soccer, etc. So with a typical HID or LED floodlight, the main light, which is the bright yellow triangle going down to the field, that's your main area of concern for lighting. But when the ball is traveling vertically up in the air, you still have to have light above the field so that you can continue to see that light, the ball. If you lose sight of that ball, obviously there's a possibility for safety issues. If a person loses the ball, they could get hit by the ball, or there could be various things that would take place. So what Musco has introduced, if you go to the next slide. As you can see, with the full cutoff fixture, we have the yellow triangle going down to the field. And that is the light that's being cast down, illuminating the field surface. Now, you notice we put a little house over to the right, all the way over to the right there. You see, we're able to cut off that light before it gets to the main beam of light, before it gets to that little house over there on the right. There it is on the other. And you can see without the control, that house is completely illuminated. With the control, with the full cutoff fixture now, we keep the light off of the house. But we still have to have light above the field for that ball traveling above the light. And that's where we put in what we call a little ball tracker fixture. It's an inverted fixture that is upside down and puts just a small amount of light up into the air above the field, so that there's always light on the bottom of that ball as it travels. And you see those if you go to the polo grounds. I'm always asked the question, what are those lights that are pointing up into the air? Well, they're there purposely so that as that ball is traveling over the field, the players, the athletes can always follow the path or the trajectory of that ball. But the benefit of that too is if you notice the beam of light, what is it doing? It's going way above those adjacent neighbors. So there's no impact whatsoever by that light. And that's the little fixture. It points upward, straight up, and illuminates the area vertically above the field. Yeah. So what we're providing is we're providing galvanized steel poles. We have the lights on the top of the pole. We have the poles themselves. We have the foundations are concrete foundations. There's wiring throughout the pole that we provide. We provide controls, and I'll talk about that in a minute. And then our installations are always with prevailing wage, which we have to follow with any municipal project or any Board of Ed project. We will also be doing a geotechnical analysis, so the foundations will be designed based upon the soil conditions that surround the field itself. We have to be careful because the field does have that slope beyond the field on one side, so we'll be making sure that the foundations are designed in accordance with having everything designed so that we're not dealing with that slope, and those poles would meet all the IBC criteria for local New Jersey building code.
You're working with rec department or whomever on ensuring that any future maintenance of all the other field items crack or whatever will not affect your conduit or whatever you're running into.
Yes,
So
that's
you
cool.
anticipated that, oh yeah, we might have to replace the track, we might have to do something and it won't.
Yes, but one of the good things in terms of how we do the lighting is we're able to run the conduit and the wire outside of the field, outside of the track. So everything is completely free of the field and the track, because fields will need maintenance, the track will need to be replaced after so many years.
Right.
So everything's completely outside and completely away, so that there's no problem with any maintenance that would have to be done to the field, to the artificial turf, or to the track. Just like polo grounds, it comes with a 25-year warranty covering parts and labor. So we were able to take care of that lighting system for 25 years. There's no cost to the Board of Ed. There's proactive monitoring for outages. So we monitor if there's a light out. We're typically telling the owner, hey, you've got a light out. Can you check that for us? Once we determine that there is a light out, then we come out and fix it. We have over 1,700 technicians. And we do have the controlling controls, and I believe the next slide will show that a little bit. Basically, we have a wireless control system. The benefit of the wireless control system is you don't have a time clock. When you put the field lights on a time clock, the time clock is set. It's going to go on a certain time at night. It's going to go off a certain time at night. So you have a rainy night, nobody's going on the field, but that time clock is still going to turn those lights on, turn those lights out. Also, you're not using a time clock, somebody's going and turning switches on, switches off manually. Keys get lost, there's issues where somebody leaves the field, forgets to turn the lights off. With the wireless control system, the lights are set to come on a specific time and go off at a specific time. As you already heard testimony, there's specific times when the lights are going to be controlled to go off. So certain persons within the Board of Ed in the administration will have to control the lights through a cell phone app with a username and passcode. It's the same for the recreation department here in town for the field. And in that way, it's always, the lights are on when somebody's using the field, and they're supposed to be on, and they're off when they're supposed to be off.
Does that also track when they're on or off?
Yes, it does.
So if there was a complaint and someone said the lights are on at 8:30, you could go into the system and confirm whether or not they want.
The Board of Ed will be able to print off reports. It tells them when the lights were turned on, when the lights were turned off, and because of the username and passcode, who done it?
Okay, perfect.
Accountability is a great thing.
Lastly, we have our architect. Oh, okay.
If you're ready to break in, you swear to God or affirm testimony about to give you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I do. Please.
You just state your name and spell it for the board,
Brett Messinio, Messineo.
and then if you can just state your qualifications for the board.
I'm a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey. I've been licensed for the past 27 years. I've been doing municipal and educational school work for the past 30 years. We're currently the architect of record for 40 school districts in the state. And, you know, we do these types of projects for all of our districts, from fields to lighting to additions, buildings, et cetera.
Does the board have any questions about his qualifications?
Nope.
And again, I will let you.
Terrific. So we're here to talk about the light, and this is the field, so we're gonna kind of just give you a brief overview of how this system was designed and what the intent is in terms of getting lights in place. And then Bob is gonna come back and talk a little bit about the lighting and how it's affects this field and everything else. So from a light pole location, there will be 4 light poles located on the 4 quadrants. And those light poles that you see me circle, that's outside the field, as Bob had mentioned, and they will be installed, as Bob said, using footings after the soils are checked. The appropriate foundations will be poured for those footings. We do have a slope. You're going to see in the next image how that slope, we're going to use it to our advantage, but we do need to address that in the installation of the footings for the lights. And you'll see how those light fixtures are going to accommodate not only the egress, but also prevent light spillage onto the neighboring properties. So this is a cross section from Olcott being here, the adjacent house across the way. And you can see the significant slope coming down. The field would be here. I'll zoom in on the field and the proposed lights. So you can see the height of the proposed lights. They don't come above the tree line, and they are going to focus the light and the foot candles. As you can see from the center image, it's 50-foot candles at the center of the field. It's 50-foot candles at the edges of the field. And as it starts to move out, the track would be 28-foot candles. And then as we move to the bleachers and the top of the bleachers, you're back down to 7-foot candles. So that spillage decreases as we move further and further away from the center of the field. So as we get to the lighting calculations, Bob's going to come back and he's going to talk a little bit more about those the lighting calculations and how they affect. Those are, Yes, they are 8 feet tall, that's correct. Okay. What we have is the lighting level on the field itself is, according to the Illumination Engineering Society, a class 2 field. It's a maintained average across the field of 50-foot candles, and it is a light level that is utilized that can handle everything up to and including varsity sports or high school level lighting. Now, we are not lighting the track for competition track. And the reason we're not doing that, if you could go over to that right side of the track there, the track is feet away from the property line. It's very, very close to the property line on the right-hand side. And so therefore, we wanted to keep the light away from that portion of the track. Now, there are zeros there along that right side of the track. We call that the track bend, or just outside of the D zone. Those are 0-foot candle values. That means that there's less than a 1/2-foot candle of light along that portion of the track. Now, a 1/2-foot candle of light is the minimum amount of light that's needed for security purposes. If you're walking somewhere and there's less than a 1/2-foot candle of light and there's an object on the ground in front of you, you might very well trip over that light. So showing just zeros with nothing beyond the decimal point means we have less than a 1/2-foot candle there. You want to have a little bit of light there just for security purposes, so you can see down on that side of the field there where toward the property line, if there's anybody down there, if there's anything going on down there, but it's just a minimal amount of light. If you look at the track on the left side, you'll notice we have 8-9-foot candles there. What we have done is we've added some lighting to the 2 poles closest to that bend in the track, so that this way there's egress lighting being projected over to where the spectators, participants would be entering the field, so there's sufficient light to the parking lot. We also have lighting in the bleachers. And as you can see, this also is an indication of how quickly the lighting is decreasing as you move away from the field. The bottom row of the bleachers, you see, we're looking at in the low 20s, the teens, we have light values of, as we get to the top, we have 7s, 5s. So there's ample light for people to safely enter and leave the bleachers. So we have that set up. Now, here is the actual still values, okay? So first of all, we're gonna do the right property line. Now, first thing we're looking at is what's called horizontal foot candles. Horizontal foot candles is when I take my light meter and I have my face of my meter horizontally. So it's horizontal to the ground. This is my light meter. Okay, this is the measuring surface of the light meter where I would measure the level of light. So when I hold my meter about 3 feet above grade, horizontally like this, that is the standard method of measurement both on the field and off the field. The reason that is the case is because anyone can take a light meter, hold it horizontally, just like this, and get pretty reproducible results no matter who would take that light reading, okay? So horizontal light readings along the property line, the maximum value is that value down there in the green, about the middle where the track bend comes closest to the property line. And that value is, can we zoom in just a little bit? 0.10 foot candles. What is that? 0.1 foot candles is moonlight. So we're talking about basically moonlight in horizontal foot candles at the property line. And we can leave it at that, but we like to take, and as you can see, the values from that point go down 0.1, then they get down to 0.04, 0.3, 0.2. When you get down to 0.3, 0.2, in order for me to take a measurement, I have to actually have a little light on my meter so I can actually read what the meter says. That's how low those light values are, okay? Now we take it a step further on the next slide. What we do is we do vertical foot candles. So what we do is we take the meter and now we stand at that point and we aim the meter back at the lights on the field. So this is what we're doing is essentially we're reproducing what your eye is going to do. Your eye is going to be drawn to the brightest light source in the area of your field of view. So what we do is we take the light meter, we move it around vertically till we get a highest value. And that highest value typically aligns the meter with one of the poles, but you're still getting all the light from all the poles measured on your meter. We do that at each point too. And your highest value there is at the same place. It's 0.23 or a little less than a quarter of a foot candle. Now, when we generate these values, without taking into account any foliage. So the tree buffer, all the trees that are along that property line, that are some that are on the school side, those that are on the neighbor's side, we're assuming they don't exist. So this way, God forbid, a storm comes through, takes out all the trees. We'll still be able to go out there and measure those exact same values. We will not be above those values, the values that we're showing here tonight. Okay? Now we did a second line of spill values, and that was on Alcott Avenue. These again are the horizontal values first. We have 0.00. There is no light from these lights on Alcott Avenue horizontally. Let's go vertically. The highest value is 0.01. There's no light up on Alcott. Again, that does not take into account that big, wonderful giant tree that sits there just above the field or any of that foliage as well. So there's no impact to Alcott Avenue whatsoever. Now, just to kind of illustrate this a little bit further, this is what we call a luminous intensity map. So the different colors show how the actual luminous intensity decreases. When you get to the outer band of that very light green, that light green, basically you're getting down below to maybe 1,000, 2,000 candela. That's basically what you get from your porch on the front of your house. So really, you can actually see how, and beyond that, there's absolutely nothing. So again, not including the foliage, This is how well we can really capture and really have the light on the field and away from the adjoining properties. And then I have a couple pictures. Just to illustrate this. This is Franklin Field in Hawthorne, New Jersey. I'm standing, this is a baseball field. But I bring this picture because I'm standing on the baseball field and I want to illustrate, you see how the actual shielding of the fixtures cuts out the actual glare. You're not seeing hardly any of the lighting fixture, any of the light within the lighting fixture. And actually you can see if you go down the pole just above the fence, you can actually see the ball tracker sitting there on these poles. Because this is baseball, there's the little ball trackers. You can't see them either because they're aimed upward. So you're not viewing the light source in the ball tracker either. That's one example. This is Central Regional High School in Bayville. This is a picture looking down from above. So you can see how quickly the lighting diminishes as you go away from the field. It's very concentrated, very controlled. And then the last one I have here is Passaic County Tech. And you could again see how the lighting is controlled around the field. And behind those trees, there's a row of homes. Those are backyards. Just those trees are just beyond those trees is backyards of homes. We've had absolutely no complaints from the lighting on those homes whatsoever. So as you heard in the previous testimony, this is a technology that's proven and it is effective in residential areas where we really have to control the light. When the lighting is installed, we come out, we make sure that these values, which we have testified to today for this board, are all met or better than what they are. If not, we go out, we do fine tuning, we can adjust the lights to make sure that everything you see and you've heard me talk to today is provided. And that's the end.
And that concludes our testimony. So if we wanted, if any board members have questions for the witnesses.
What is the order of magnitude of the existing lighting?
That I don't know. Normally when you have crank up lights, normally what you have is you have a very bright spot underneath the crank up lights, and then it just diminishes as it goes away. I'm sorry, I'll just stand up. Let me go back there. Stand on my X spot here. Basically, with a crank up light, you're pointing the crank up light straight across the field because it's the only way you can get the light because they're so short. They're only 30-foot poles. So you're projecting light straight across the field. When I've gone on fields, I have not been on this field with the crank up lights, but typically what I see is we get very high light levels immediately in front of those lights and it diminishes very quickly as it goes across. And the problem also with that is what you're doing is you don't have any kind of shielding, because if you put shielding, you're not getting light to the middle.
You
So-
see the light source.
So you really see the light source, because it's basically aimed straight across.
Yeah, I think the problem is producing a product that you can't see the light source.
Yeah.
That's what you need. I mean, that's the key. That's always been the way we've tried to develop. As you saw in that evolution, we're trying to minimize the view of what are the glare producing portions of that lighting fixture. Before it was actually that reflector itself. Now it's just, that's why we tuck the light source up and in with the shield so that we can get that out of view. Because that's typically the complaint. You see that big bright glow in the sky, and that's exactly the point. That's what you need to do.
I have a question that may be irrelevant if you are guaranteeing you're not exceeding the values that you produced here. When was the study done? I assume all of the readings were taken on the same night.
No, these are not
Projected.
These are projected.
Computer.
And that's
Okay,
why I state that
Okay,
we do come afterwards and we do make sure that part of our commitment to our customers is that we come out after the fact and verify. Also part of that guarantee is we guarantee for 25 years, not only the light levels will stay consistent on the field, but also the spill levels will stay what they are.
okay.
And if they change for some reason or another, and I have been asked to go out to check because someone thought something had changed, and 9 out of 10 times it hasn't changed. One time, it got dark in the corner of the field, but I had to point out to them that they forgot to prune the tree, and the tree was blocking the light. Okay, but we do go out we verify, we guarantee for 25 years, there should be no change. And that's why we can do this, because we're assuming there's no trees or anything there. So even if all the trees were gone, we could still go out and we could still verify and still confirm those lightings. We don't rely on that for anything.
But don't you have to know the existing light level, so? Because if you go out and measure, it's gonna include the existing light level.
Well, you're talking about the ambient light. That's a good
Yeah.
point. What we do is we go out and we'll take a light reading with the lights on the field. We'll turn the field lights off, and I'll take another set of readings and I'll subtract out the ambient light readings from the field lighting readings, and then we get the true field lighting readings. It's a very good point. Anything else that I can answer?
Well, I think that ensures that you've matched your specs. But from the standpoint of, and this is picky, but from the standpoint of an observer, they would see the aggregate, they would see the ambient plus your lighting. Right, if there was some, there shouldn't be any issue, but
Yeah, I can't
understand
control
what
the
you
ambient. Yeah,
confirming that your system matches its specs.
that's correct.
Like, it's the net, not the gross, in essence. That's just check.
The warranty.
Quick question about the upside down light, does that activate when there's motion in the sky or something within a certain, oh, that's just on?
It's on with the controls.
Okay, interesting.
We're all thinking about drones. Really good.
Use all the drones.
I thought of a drone. A really good. But
Well, I guess some of the sports wouldn't necessarily need that.
That's correct.
You could-
What we do is we do put the ball trackers on their own zone.
Oh,
So if it is not needed for a particular sport, they do not have to turn them on. It's been our experience though, however, that people typically don't even know whether they're on or not on because of the way
Yeah,
they
it'd just
project.
be optimizing the electricity. Well, it's no, the bulbs like.
We want to be
These
efficient,
are LEDs, these lights,
100,000 plus hours.
yeah. And you keep local spares on the lights, right? I mean, you don't have to send,
Oh, no, we have a quick response.
you know,
If there's a problem, we take care of that. That's why they're all manufactured right here in the United States. They're not like some of these fixtures that are manufactured in China that they try to install. Okay, you can't get parts.
is there grounding, like lightning type?
Yes, there is.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The precast concrete base
Right.
that we showed in the picture, what it has is what's called integral grounding system. There's a steel plate on the top of that precast base, and then it wires through the rebar cables that go through that precast concrete base and goes down into the ground, and it dissipates that way. And that steel plate on top of the precast concrete base is in contact with the steel pole and grounds the steel pole. The steel pole also in the enclosure at 10 feet above grade has an equipment ground as well, and that is also grounded back to throughout the electrical system. So it's grounded for lightning and it's grounded electrically.
Do you need to care about EMP type of a pulse? Do you, I mean, it's grounded, I know, but do you have to worry? You don't have to answer here, but.
Well, I haven't encountered anything that has posed a problem
Yeah.
with that.
I don't know, it's just a matter of whether the LEDs are sensitive to an EMP pulse or not. They're, as you know, electronically, you can buy those EMP preventers, that just basically they just
Yeah.
absorb the momentary shock.
I mean, I know we do have a pretty elaborate surge protection system
Right,
that does protect the drivers on the poles, because they, as you know, if you have an LED lighting fixture, the fixture itself is robust, it's the driver, that's the delicate part.
right.
And so we do have pretty complex surge protection for that drive, for the drivers that are on the pole to help not have any problems from surges.
Is at the top of the pole, is there actually any kind of a spire there, like, you
No.
know, lightning? No, it's just the top of the pole.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay,
There's a cap on the top
I
of the
could
pole.
see the picture, yeah.
There it is. It's a cap that has its own little leash on it, so it can never get lost.
Okay, so, now we can ask if there are any, go ahead.
Just have one if I may, Mr. Chairman, if the board's done, How often, you said there's in essence a post-installation, light water, for lack of a better term, you do mitigation or adjustment if necessary. Is that a one-time or is that, because you mentioned, I think it's 25-year?
Yes.
Warranty?
No, as I indicated, if the owner notices or feels that they think that something doesn't look right, maybe it's dark in a corner or something along that pathway, like I said, our one customer said it got dark in the corner. So we went out and we redid the lighting test. And in redoing the lighting test, that's when we could see that it was the tree that was blocking the
But
light.
is it, so do you do one at a certain point and then it's on request?
Then it is on request.
Thereafter, and at what point do you do that first order? Immediately after installation?
Soon as the lights are commissioned and operational, and as soon as I can get there.
Okay. And so, I mean, it's certainly, in my experience in applications for development, it's not uncommon to have a post-installation light audit.
Yes.
As a condition of approval, here might be a recommendation, but in essence, you're saying it's part of the warranty. And it's not only one time, it's also thereafter on demand, if you will.
Correct.
Nevertheless, we could always have a recommendation. Nothing further, thank you.
So if there are any questions for these witnesses, not commentary, but questions from the public, you can come down and ask your questions of either of the three witnesses.
Just, you don't have to be sworn in. Everybody comes up to me like this. But your name and address, and then please ask your questions of.
So Rob Wilson, 48 Shadbrook Court, lovely town, Bernardsville. Two positives. So love the LED. That's great. Low energy stuff. Really happy to hear that and ones. And love the low light pollution profile. So great to see that being put into effect. One is, these are tall, narrow structures. I heard you talk about electricity, didn't hear you talk about earthquake, which we've had a few. Is there any kind of?
That's a good question. I'll just stay seated here. Within the International Building Code, which is the state code, state building code, there are certain requirements for different areas for seismic calculations. So based upon the area, our structural engineers will include each one of those. We have a risk factor, there's an exposure, there's a wind speed that we have to match, and also there is a seismic constant that we have to meet. Now, obviously, if we get a big earthquake, just, you get something out of the ordinary. But for the most part, all of the requirements that are part of the International Building Code, which is a state adopted code, we do meet all of those requirements, and part of that is a seismic requirement. That's correct.
Okay, have you lost a pole? Has one come down?
Well, not from that. I'll say this, when Hurricane Sandy came through a number of years ago, we had two poles that fell down. One pole fell down because an 80-year-old oak tree said, "I'm taking you down," and it was gone. The other one came down because an owner attached netting to the pole. And we had told them not to attach netting to the pole. So when the wind came, it caught the net, it was like a big sail, and it took the pole down. But other than that, to my knowledge, there have been, in 25 years, there have been no other pole failures here in New Jersey or in Delaware, Pennsylvania, the Northeast where I work.
And I have one more question. How much does a bulb cost?
Well, we don't have a bulb.
Or how much is the replacement? You said there were two.
It's a fixture. They're different fixtures. Each one's different. It's a couple $1,000s.
Thanks.
Hi, I'm Aaron Duff, I live at 51 Crestview Drive in Bernardsville. I just had a question, and I echo Mr. Wilson's statements that it looks like a perfect product. On the architect slide, there was like a field level view with the existing lighting in the middle and the proposed lighting on the two corners. No, further back, I kind of you're standing on the field. Yeah, yeah, I'm sorry, that one, right. I will confess my ignorance, to, the existing conditions. Is that landscaping accurate? Are those trees that look like they're there?
Yes.
That's based on what's actually there.
That's based on what's there.
Sure. And the other direction, you're just looking towards the school, right, or the parking lot?
Yes, that would be the problem.
Right. Thank you. And I guess the other, question on the sliding level, benefits of the warranty, coverage. Does the manufacturer or Musco offer any type of insurance, defense, indemnity agreement for, claims, injury claims based on like, any like, sports injuries, somebody, falls in the bleacher, someone trips on something that's directly related to those lights? Is that something that's within the contract?
No, we wouldn't have that in the contract. Typically, an owner would carry that type of insurance for themselves.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Paul St. Arms, 60 Old Back. Great presentation. Thank you for the new shed of Walcott Avenue and neighbors. In the end,
I'm sorry, could you speak up and I didn't.
I'm sorry, Paul
Okay.
St. Ange, 60 Walcott Avenue. S is in Sam, T is in Tim, there's a period, there's a space, capital O, N as in Nancy, G as in George, E as in Edward.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. During the presentation that the school board gave, and the meetings that were held, there was reference to the use of 70-foot poles rather than 80. I'm wondering if you could comment on that. There doesn't seem to be a need for 80-foot poles. Secondly, you mentioned with respect to ingress and egress, increasing the candle power. If you know the high school complex, you know that there's at least a dozen or more lights on the building facing the access to the field. You also know that there are 3 massive spotlights on the front of the high school building that are illuminated all night long and provide plenty of light into the neighborhood as well as the parking lot. There's no need to increase candle power at that access area because you have ambient lighting as well as the lighting on the school. And I would ask that you take that into consideration when you're doing your specs.
I'd be happy to do that.
Okay, because if you know the facility, there's too much lighting on the building, and the school board has said it was going to address it at some point in time.
Would, just as a point, is it possible that this lighting might give the board more flexibility, the school board more flexibility for the lighting that you're talking about, which is in the, in the lot and on the building walls? Would they be able to potentially drop some of that down if they had this?
That's a great point, Mr. Chairman. The facility should have, apparently, the Board of Education has said that their facilities committee is going to do a study of the I think there are over 40 lights on the buildings. It's lit up like an airport. And your point is well taken. You may be able to take off a dozen lights that are now on the old gym, the new gym side that faces.
Because they don't have to reach it if he's lighting.
Correct.
Okay.
So it's,
If I may just say though, the only problem with that is the fact that only at times that field would be lit would those lights be on.
I know, but
the
they
other
may be
times-
lit so that the egress is lit. That may be the reason they have those lights on. And if you're lighting the egress, they don't need to light the egress. It's a lot. Thank you.
You should look at it.
it's something that needs to be looked at, and I think the notion that you're going to, you need to light this facility 24 hours a day for security reasons is, I think, not correct. It needs to be lit appropriately for security reasons. It's overlit right now.
I don't want to interrupt. So, the lights for the field, are those also able to be used for building lighting? The same style light, is same fixture?
Probably not, because the lighting that we have produces a lot more light than you would on a typical building lighting fixture.
No, it's just the shielding of
But
it.
there are similar light fixtures for exterior for the building that are low throw lights. They don't do what.
Right, because I think the biggest complaint,
Understood.
I drive by there as often as Paul does going home, is that it shoots straight out. So there may be a way to look at that and shade them similar to what your design does, which doesn't spill beyond the roadway.
But I would say not to get off track, we're just here about the field
I
lights,
understand.
not about,
Well, the point was, we don't want to, I would
So
suggest
recommendation to the.
leaving the recommendation in place that it lights the egress and that as opposed to saying, no, we should not do that. We should rely on other lighting to light the egress. You should follow your current plan and then the board can do their own review and then obviously it can be adjusted however you want because it's flexible. So if you wanted to turn it down at a later date, you can do that. But for now, there's an opportunity that because they're lighting the egress, when the egress is being used, there's an opportunity. So,
Mr. Chairman, I apologize, but I missed part of the testimony. I was unable to get here at 7:30, and there was a comment made during one of the presentations that referenced hours of use. And I'm wondering if someone can just confirm what was stated in that testimony.
Sure, the policy permits the use through 8 o'clock at night, up until 8 o'clock at night. And then there are additional nights for the duration of the year where we're able to use that up until 10 o'clock.
Thank you.
and you said 20
I
and.
think it was a limit of 20, what they refer to as stretch nights.
Thank you. And then lastly, I know that the school board will look at this issue, but Musco's a fine company, a 25-year guarantee. We just have to make sure we know what we're going to do if Musco is no longer available. In the future.
I can share that, I can share about that. What Musco does is they have a special fund where they put monies aside on each project to take care of any issues that will come about afterwards. And so that money is there specifically for that, and that it's in some kind of an escrow account. It cannot be touched or anything except for these type, because we started with 10-year warranties like 20 years ago. We've had 25-year warranties around. We have our first 25-year warranties are basically coming up now. But in a special fund, there are the funds that are put in there to ensure that every warranty, unlike other companies that go out and then people left without a warranty, there are special funds that are put into place specifically, no matter what happens to Musco, that the warranties can be fulfilled.
Yeah, thank you for that. No one board, I'm sure, will address it. Thank you very much.
If I may ask a question, Chairman, based on that response, is that separate funds by project, the school, location, et cetera, as opposed to one general fund for all customers?
The specific amounts taken for each project and are put aside.
Okay, so we won't have to compete with the Red Bulls to get them, because they're very fast.
Any more questions? Okay, so now if there are any comments from the public, you can come down and make a comment. You will be sworn, for making those comments. Come on down if you have any comments. Okay, no comments. So Steve, she will summarize basically.
Very countful for summation.
well, I don't feel like I have a whole lot to say. I think our experts and our superintendent summed it up for you. Like, they presented, this is a project for 4 80-foot light poles. They're utilizing the best technology on the market to try and reduce any potential nuisance to neighbors. With regard to this project, we're looking for the board to provide a resolution that says they've reviewed it, it's consistent with the master plan, and the board is also free to make any recommendations that I think some have been noted here already. And that is what we're asking for. It's the intent of the project is to not increase the student body, increase the intensification of the field. It's really to get a better quality use of the field and a better experience for the students using the field and the spectators visiting.
And question, council, Chairman, because correct me if I'm wrong, but to some extent, the determination made by the board with respect to the project, albeit recommendatory, is a correct me if I'm wrong, a master plan consistency type review, which is not uncommon for our board. So given that, would you have any position with respect to, or intention with respect to the consistency with the master plan? And if so, would you share that with the board?
This is school and educational uses are a permitted conditional use in both zones that the school is in. If you're not aware, this property is actually split zoned. It's in two separate zones and it's a permitted use in both zones. And so this is an accessory ancillary use to an educational facility. I think everyone can agree that student athletics are part of the educational experience in New Jersey. We're one of the few remaining states that require physical education as part of our curriculums. Sports enhance the educational experience for students. Therefore, our fields go hand in hand with the education experience and are part of the educational facilities as a whole.
I'll just chime in. John Zabo and I talked about this application earlier today. Discussed it as not being inconsistent.
I would assume it maintains and upgrades community resources, promotes desirable visual environment, improves community facilities, encourages technologies, minimizes light pollution, etc., all of which might be consistent, if not furthering objectives and purposes of our master plan.
Yes, I would agree with those statements. I think we presented the testimony tonight that we're making efficient use of the facilities we have without trying, with still trying to be a good neighbor and not be a nuisance to the community.
I've got one comment that I would like to be a recommendation. And that is, first, validate whether the prior meetings, whether there was testimony in your meetings about the pole being 70 feet. And then just revisit whether it's possible to achieve the same, well, appropriate specifications of light at a lower height than 80 feet. Just review the specs. And if it was never said 70 feet, that's it, but just.
I can say that if the meeting that I was at, I did not say 70 feet, I did say 80 feet.
You did, okay.
Somebody brought up the fact of, well, if the poles were up on the hillside, they could be 70 feet. The problem is, the further you move away from the field, number one, you can't install the poles on a hillside. It's not going to work from a
So that's
construction.
where the word 70 might have come into play.
Yeah, that might have been coming to play.
Okay, as far as you're concerned, it's consistent. It's always been 80.
From my
And I
testimony,
withdraw
yes.
I withdraw my recommendation. Any recommendations from us at all? Okay.
And then I would suggest a motion, second and roll call of the resolution drafting purposes to memorialize the determination that presumably if board finds it not inconsistent with the master plan for reasons of course stated by applicants, council, board planner, and board Philadelphia planner perhaps as well. here, board attorney. That was a joke on photo, yes, and, you have to explain it, it's
It's
not.
a resolution, did you say we also need to
Yeah.
memorialize it later?
Yeah, I'll memorialize it with a resolution and have it for the next meeting.
The next meeting. So this is just the resolution.
Yeah, but this is just a motion to find that the project is not inconsistent with the master plan and whatever recommendations are made. Apparently, those specific recommendations. So it'll be a shorter resolution. Otherwise, I don't know if you can handle it shorter. I can handle it. If we're short, the term, very big show for you and I.
I would make the motion that as I presented tonight, and it's submitted in the application, that the field lighting system with the 4 poles is not inconsistent with the plan.
Second.
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Ms. Gardner,
Yes.
Ms. Geller,
Yes.
Mr. Brand,
Yes.
Mr. Morrison,
Yes.
Mr. Sacco,
Yes.
Mr. Simoff,
Yes.
Mr. Walden,
Yeah.
and Mr. Zazarino.
Yes.
Thank you.
It's not about the resolution, and I apologize if it's inappropriate. You said that the lack of night lighting affected Grove Davies in particular. So I hope, as you put your new schedule in with appropriate lighting, that you rethink the lack of priority timing for JV Golf Sports. Because they have schoolwork, they have activities, and it's really hard to get into your homework, get into your sports when you have a long amount of time. And that's just struck me as something that shouldn't even be an issue, that they're not getting the same priority planning. I apologize, but I needed to make that comment. If you would look at that when you review it.
Certainly will. Federal legislation, but 40 years ago, that doesn't make sense. Well, that's-
So, you have still public hearing. 27.
Yes, we do, and that is a public hearing, Mr. Chairman, and, we have everybody here. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Talking about legislation, it was an old poster that you should, what they had as part of the. Yeah, right. I don't know.
Just found out.
Said. Did you speak with the?
That, I didn't. I'm saying. I actually, yeah.
Apparently not.
So with the schools,
You know what? Well, it wasn't no. Because it was a site plan waiver application. So the state carried it out there. Yeah. Without any, what needs to be any, but maybe we'll adjourn, defer to the board and Denise.
Table the next meeting.
Is they gonna come?
did it submit anything to Bob to look at?
Yeah. And help, have it for well, yeah, no position.
He didn't tell me to buy possible.
I would. Yeah, why don't we, yeah. Okay, it needs to be, when would it be? At least 40 years here.
So the next meeting is February,
47. And I'm available.
it is.
Okay, we'll give you a second reservation. Open table. There.
No pending reviews. I don't think we have any visitors, any questions from visitors about the minutes, so we are going to, head into executive session, which.
That's no, we discussed the Equinet.
I'm sorry?
Is Equinet?
No, that's gonna be part of the executive session.
Oh, okay.
So that is why it's on for when we get back.
Oh, it's, yeah.
So we need a motion for executive session.
So moved.
Second. And Denise, are we?
Yes.
Are we going into the other room or are we staying here?
I think we're staying here.
Okay. And here, we used to go in. Out of the car.
It's a 27. Hearing that.
Yeah. Now it's being rescheduled for February 27th, 2 weeks, our next meeting. Try to make sure that we have an applicant here.
So have a good night.
Thanks, Rick. Careful.